Jesse McAnally.
And I'm Andrew DeWolf.
And I'm Brianna Jones.
And welcome to Musicals with Cheese, a podcast where I try to get Andrew and Bree to like musical theater. And you guys, not only is it Pride Month, but we've got a super special returning guest.
Hi!
Wow. He jumped the gun.
Jumped the gun? I didn't even get to say something snarky first.
I'm so sorry.
You didn't
I
even
ruined
get to
everything.
Please join us in welcoming one of our favorite guests for their 5th time around, which means he's gonna get the cheese. It's Ethan from Sideways. And Bree, you should play some like celebration music right here because you made it to 5 times. Fifth time around means that you get a cheese tray from us as your wonderful gift, and hopefully we'll figure out what happens with 10. But you're joining an elusive club. I think only Brent Black and Adam Wachter have previously been in.
Ooh.
So you're lucky number 3.
Wow.
Cheesy.
The 5 Timers Club.
You know, I feel like I've been on way more than 5 episodes, and I've never gotten a cheese tray.
You're right.
You gotta start backlogging the cheese trays. Just come home one day, there's a pallet full of cheese trays.
Oh, no. So speaking of cheese trays, Jonathan Larson was a gentleman that wrote a bunch of musicals and then sadly died of an aortic aneurysm. Tick, tick, boom. Cue the music, Bree.
This is the life of Bo 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 Bo. This is the life of Bo 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 Bo. This is the life of Bo 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 Bo. Bohemia. Bohemia. One more time. Bohemia. Bo 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 Bo.
So Tick, Tick, Boom is a movie adapted from Jonathan Larson's original musical by Stephen Levinson. You know, the guy that wrote Dear Evan Hansen. So the music and lyrics are both by Jonathan Larson, based on his original play. This is where it gets confusing. It premiered on Netflix in November of 2021. Jonathan was played by Andrew Garfield, who would later be nominated for an Oscar for his performance. And the plot of Tick, Tick, Boom is on the cusp of his 30th birthday, a promising young theater composer navigates love, friendship, and the pressures of life as an artist in New York City. All right, so Andrew, you and I did an episode on the stage musical of Tick, Tick, Boom. We're going to try to avoid talking about the stage musical too much, but I'm very curious as to Ethan's history with Jonathan Larson, Rent, and the whole oeuvre of that.
I don't know shit about him. I'm completely honest. I really don't know. He's a huge blind spot for me and sort of like my musical theater lexicon. The only exposure prior to this film that I really had to Jonathan Larson was in high school. You know, like for like the last week of high school, like the last week of the semester, nobody's really doing anything and you just show up to class just to be there.
Yeah.
I was in band and we were just watching movies, but like something happened and they were in the middle of Rent as I walked into that period because people were just sitting in the room watching movies, marathoning it. So I walked in halfway through Rent. I had no idea what was going on. And I leaned over to someone and I was like, hey, like what's happening? What's the movie about? And she turns to me, she goes, everyone's dying from AIDS. And that was it. It's always been a mosaic film. I've seen bits and pieces, but I've never seen the thing like all the way through. And yeah, like that's literally all I knew about Jonathan Larson. And then everyone on Twitter just lost their minds over this when it came out.
I mean, yes, I was one of the people that lost their minds over this. So Andrew, I kept you a little away for this. So when this originally came out, I was going to force you guys to watch it, but then I thought, let's step back, wait for the hype to die down, and form an actual opinion on this as opposed to jumping on a bandwagon. So Andrew, with the context of Rent, Tick, Tick, Boom, the stage musical, and now the film, what did you think of Tick, Tick, Boom?
Honestly, I think it was pretty good. The movie, anyways. I remember thinking the stage show was not great, but like
better than Rent.
A little bit better than Rent in that it made a bit more sense and felt like it was more personal. But it feels like whoever was working on the movie took what was there, added some stuff, fixed up the narrative, and it's like a real show now.
It's like a real story. I have to agree with you. I like Tick, Tick, Boom better than Rent as a stage show because Rent is a mess and it's not Jonathan Larson's fault.
That's what I always hear. Everyone always says it's like, oh, it's weird, but you got to listen to it.
Yeah, it's
like
cultural.
unfinished work that they have just pushed into the limelight.
Exactly that. Work that Jonathan Larson was not entirely happy with at the moment of his death. In fact, famously, he was sending Sondheim a lot of emails and letters like, I just want to fire the director. And Sondheim was like, just wait until after the off-Broadway. You can fire him when you transfer. And then...
Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah, so Michael Greif, who is the director of Rent, made a lot of like terrible choices that he still makes to this day. Like, you know, the lack of set and saying things like, I don't care if the song is garbage. I need a song in Act 2, which is why we have the song Your Eyes right before the show ends, which is just a bad song.
Huh.
So there's a lot of things that Jonathan likely would have fixed had he had the time. Like, that's what Off-Broadway is for, is to like fix the things before you get into the final house. Like,
Sure.
take a look at Next to Normal before that turned into a Broadway show. Lots of changes. This show is not given that opportunity, and then when you lose your lead creative voice, you're kind of afraid to change anything. So it's unfinished work, sadly enough. And it could have been great and stood the test of time, but sadly, it doesn't. Because we've been a
depends who
little
you
too
ask.
well, it's been a little too precious about it. When one of the best things about the Tick Tick Boom film is that it isn't that precious about the stage show Tick Tick Boom or the 3-person monologue.
Yeah, they really changed a lot when we moved it into a movie.
Yeah. Ethan, do you want to know what the stage show is like?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really interested because, again, kind of walking in blind. I feel like, you know, sort of divorced from Lin-Manuel Miranda, Jonathan Larson, Rent, and everything. Just looking at it like as a film, it's a really good musical movie, especially like now when we're dealing with like some really funky musical movies.
Yeah.
It's like it does it really, really well, you know.
I
like,
agree.
So I'm really interested to see like where it sort of changed and how it was adapted from the stage show and like what they had to change.
So the monologue was just 3 people on mic stands, and they include that into the film very well. Then in 2001, a guy named David Auburn adapted that monologue into a 3-person stage musical with a proper narrative, so to say. And a lot of that was tossed out for the movie, but like elements were kept in, like small scene snippets were kept in. Like, so Susan in that version was much more of just a shrew, like a battering wife character just trying to like, hey, you've seen Walk Hard. Susan was just the wife character played by Kristen Wiig in Walk Hard in the stage show. Yeah.
Huh. That's so weird.
And the songs were used as proper, like, non-diegenic, they are singing from their soul kind of ballads, unlike in the movie where they're kind of within their own like wacky world, like they are performed on the stage in the rock monologue or obviously a fantasy.
Sure.
Yeah, it's interesting how they did the movie because it's almost like a movie about Tick Tick Boom and not an adaptation of it.
Yes.
Like, there's like parts of it where he's performing Tick Tick Boom on the stage and we're watching that, and then it like cuts away from that and goes to something else.
Yeah, there's like multiple levels of diegetic levels to it. How would you want to play it? Where it's like he's on stage and that's like quote unquote reality. Then there's like basically the main story of the film. And then there's this like hyper reality fantasy sort of the diner's going to open up and we're going to have lights like descend onto it while they write his name in the sky kind of stuff.
Yeah. And like there's like things like the Sunday pastiche. That's obviously a movie only thing, but the Sunday scene did exist in the stage show. So there are elements that are there, but it's a different kind of feel. It's a wholly different experience. And it almost works on stage, but it really finds its home in the film. So the film in and of itself has a lot of cards that it uses quite well. And there's some songs in the film that were not in the stage show, like Swimming, where...
Okay, I wanted to ask about that because it felt like it stuck out a little bit.
Yeah, that song was written for Tick Tick Boom, only used in the monologues and then cut for the stage show. And then the song Green Green Dress is used as like diegetic music within the world as opposed to like a sung song, even though the sung song was shot. And then they just cut some things like the song Sugar, which even in the original stage show, they had no idea what to do with that song. So they just made a small little throwaway joke in the movie. Very smart choices made there.
Because that was the thing about this film that like I didn't pick up in watching it. I had to go to Twitter to find out, where just like there are just dozens and dozens of little references all over the place.
Yes. Like
and having no familiarity with Rent, like it all just sailed by and I had no idea.
Well, there's Rent, but there's everything else too. So what did you think of the film? Like, why did you decide to watch Tick, Tick, Boom, Ethan, as a guy that doesn't know about Jonathan Larson that much, wasn't attached to Rent, all that kind of stuff?
I really wanted to see what Lin-Manuel Miranda was doing because this is his first directorial film, right? Like first time he ever directed.
Yeah.
I wanted to see what he did, and everybody was talking about how great it was and how everybody just lost their mind. And I was like, all right, it's on Netflix. I don't even have to put on pants. Let's do it. So yeah, no, it was basically just curiosity, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. The thing. I'm sorry. I'm thinking about like Dear Evan Hansen because I just got through the film, and how it's just like. Anyway, the
Bad?
Yeah.
Oh, what? Dear Evan Hansen is bad?
In so many ways. And so
What?
it's like, hopping from that and Cats and a couple other, things. It's
Cats
like
is bad now? Oh my gosh.
Well,
Are
we're
we really gonna cat slander on this show?
Oh my
it's
gosh.
a lot. It's like kind of like a movie musical slump. And so to see something work this well, right? Especially coming from somebody who like obviously is probably like the most prolific musical theater writer right now, Lin-Manuel Miranda, would you say?
See, that's where
Close
it's confused. It's hard to say that right now because he's done 2 pieces of musical theater.
Oh yeah.
He's moved on to movies at this point.
Yeah,
he's writing everything for Disney.
Right.
Oh,
But
okay. Yeah.
I almost count that because he's still writing music like a lot and making a ton of money doing it. So I don't know.
Anyway, I thought like as far as the movie musical aspect, I thought it was executed really, really well, and that was the part that I was interested in.
This is much closer to like a Bob Fosse style stage musical than it is to, let's just say, Steven Spielberg's West Side Story.
Yeah.
This is an untraditional musical in that way, and the way that the songs kind of react to a scene that's going on as opposed to push the story forward.
Yeah, it felt at times like it kind of had a Chicago flair, the Chicago film from the early 2000s, where it would just it just goes off, or like Big Fish, I want to say, where it just like it would just go off into a random fantasy world and then it has to bring you back to reality.
I can see both of those things very clearly. The problem with this film are like I see very few faults with it. I think it's a great film. There are things that bother me though, but I don't want to dive into the negative. Andrew, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I already said I really enjoyed it. I don't think I have any general thoughts other than.
Well, how does it compare to the other movie musicals we got last year? The West Side Stories, the Dear Evan Hansens.
Well, Dear Evan Hansen is just garbage. It almost feels like it's hard to like talk about movie musicals right now because it's basically a binary. It's like there's good ones and then there's bad ones and then that's like it. It's either like Cats or Dear Evan Hansen. Or it's Tick, Tick, Boom and West Side Story where they're like good.
Yeah, it's like competent or incompetent. It's not even like you can say they're good or bad.
Yeah, it's like, well, I mean, this one was good and those ones were bad. And there's no like
gray area.
Gray area, it feels like.
Mm-hmm. Well, Andrew, last week we were literally talking about a musical of the same vein called 9, about a creative that's struggling with his relationships and all that because they're trying to write one piece of music, art, film, all that. What makes this effective and makes that less effective?
I think a lot of it is just the portrayal of the lead. I mean, in 9, that guy was a insufferable piece of shit.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. Who is Jonathan Larson in this movie?
Jonathan Larson, pretty sure.
I mean, yes, but what is his character traits? Like, he is excitable, he is easily distracted, he is emotionally unavailable. And the best thing that this movie does that Rent refused to do, that all of 9 refuses to do, is it gives a character saying, what the fuck are you bitching about? It gives so many people pointing out every single thing that Jonathan is doing wrong as a human being.
That's actually a really good point. There's, in fact, multiple people in
Yes.
it. In Rent, one of the biggest complaints that we have always had is like they just complain about everything in their whole life. And then I think there's one part lampshading it where like a homeless person tells them to fuck off. But like in this one, I mean, what's his girlfriend is like, hey, you're never there for me, what the hell? His friend is like, hey, I helped you out, what the fuck are you, like, why are you bitching all the time? Like, I don't know, there's like a lot of good stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. And it's what separates this from an All That Jazz and a 9 is the fact that they don't deify Jonathan Larson.
which is surprising because although a lot of this is like a love letter to Broadway like figures. I mean, you
Yes.
have Stephen Sondheim, you have, oh my God, there was so many fucking people. I don't know.
Everyone, you have everyone.
And so you would think that they would want to portray Jonathan Larson as like this perfect figure, but it's actually really good that they don't, because I mean that's what's interesting about this story is that he's a person and not a god.
Well, it was really interesting to me, because especially coming from Lin-Manuel Miranda, because in some ways this is really similar to Hamilton, right? Where like going into the film, going into the show, you know that the lead dies at the end, and you know that historically the main character does something like good or beneficial, legendary, historical, however you want to put it, something historically significant, right? So when you're watching Tick Tick Boom, yes, Larson makes a bunch of really shitty moves. He does a lot of things that like I know that like in my comp studio would have been considered like really amateurish or just like not okay in a professional setting. But there's this like weird justification where you know that every choice that he makes leads to him writing Rent. And so even if it seems like it's the wrong answer, you're kind of like, I don't know if this is like justified or not.
Yes. And Jonathan Larson in the show, he's never malicious. Like, he is just driven in a way that in the 90s it was like he talks about selling out a lot and like selling out to the man, and how
I mean that's a thing in Rent
That
and
was-
the stage show of Tick Tick Boom as well.
those were much bigger things in Rent and much bigger things in the stage show. And the fact that that is immediately contradicted from a modern perspective, which is like, who gives a fuck if you sell out? I don't want to die on the streets, and I want to.
There's a lot in this film where you have to like constantly remind yourself that this is the 90s. Because you're sitting here nowadays, it's like, holy shit, dude, you got a job? Like,
Yeah.
why are you turning this down? Oh my God.
And like, I hate that. Like, if there was any scene that I hate in this movie and I hate in the stage show, it's that scene where it's making fun of like the ad company and whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah. It's there's a lot there's a lot where it just does not hit, especially because of the time frame where he really comes off as arrogant, condescending. I don't know.
He's a real mark.
Yes, but Jonathan Larson, the man himself, I don't think he's in this movie, and I've gotten in trouble on Twitter for making this claim before. And forgive me if I'm gonna cancel myself again. I think it is to the betterment of this movie, and it was a good decision. But this does not read to me when I see Andrew Garfield on screen as Andrew Garfield portraying Jonathan Larson based on the books and stories and all those things that I had read, and descriptions and stories and clips. He's playing Lin-Manuel Miranda. He is just doing a very heightened Lin-Manuel Miranda impression. Jonathan Larson is a very calm stoner type whose excitement comes out a lot more in like boisterous kind of ways, like that kind of intensity. I'd say it like the coolest kid in your band, like energy. He's a rock fan, whereas Andrew Garfield's a little bit more flamboyant and big and moving his arms all about the same way
kind of
that
more neurotic, maybe.
Yes, in that Lin-Manuel Miranda way that we see him in interviews.
That's really interesting, because at the end of the film they have clips of like actual real life clips of Larson, and you're like, oh yeah, Andrew Garfield totally rocked it. You know, like it's a total 1-to-1 representation.
I mean, he looks like him.
He looks like him. He looks a lot like him, but he replicates the performance when he is performing like on the stage. When he does per 3090, he does all of that stuff. But as soon as like we're in the real world, when we're in the story, when we're in the
He was
narrative,
way more subdued.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's where I get the vibe. Like, I referenced the Anthony Rapp story from Without You, his audiobook, where the first time he met Jonathan Larson, he just auditioned and they just saw Jonathan in a ball in the back, like, you were in Dazed and Confused, weren't you? That was a really cool movie. Like, he's a very kind of calm, soft-spoken kind of, and he did the impression in the audiobook, and I was like, that feels right. Now, for a recent production with Nick Blamere of Tick Tick Boom, I think he looks and sounds and like completely nails the entire Jonathan Larson vibe.
Huh.
Now, it is betterment of the movie because I think this makes Jonathan a lot more relatable, a little bit more open, a little bit more friendly. I think it is a good choice for the movie. It's just he doesn't fade away into the role to me.
He may have seemed callous if he did the same things, but in like a subdued way rather
Or like
than the way he
anhedonic.
did it.
Yeah.
Well, What do you think of the addition of the songs from his show that does not exist?
Superbia.
I was really interested by this because they make a whole bit or a whole fuss over how like he's missing a number, and Sondheim himself tells him that he's missing this number. But there's like a portion of that number that comes back at the end for the final number, second to last number.
Yeah,
and it's almost like leitmotivic. And it's was that always in the show, or did they just change that for the film?
No, that was you're asking a very specific question that I did know the answer to.
Oh, sorry.
I knew this answer because I just recently rewatched the Jonathan Larson footage of his 3-person monologue. And in that same song, Why, hey, what a way to spend the day. He does not sing that little come to your senses, defend. That is not what he sings in it.
Interesting.
So, he sings the LCD readout song that he was singing in front of Sondheim.
Oh.
9 a.m. I write a lyric or two. Mike sings a song now on Mad Avenue. I sing, come to your senses. Defenses are not the way to go. Over and over and over till I get it right. 9 a.m. I write a lyric or two. Mike sings the song now on Mad Avenue. I sing liquid crystal digital readout. I'm gonna be cold over and over and over till I get it right.
Because that was not in Jonathan Larson's thing. That was added when they added the song basically narrative to the stage show for the 2001 off-Broadway one.
Okay, because that's like my favorite part of the show.
That's of note in that there is a plot of he needs to get this final song, and I don't think that's even at all in the stage show.
It's kind of in there, just kind
because that's like the whole second act, basically.
That narrative tension of it being a ticking clock, well, no pun intended, is not in the stage show, but the Come to Your Senses song being a song that's written is in there.
The ticking clock is just him turning 30, I'm pretty sure. That's it.
That's the ticking clock of the stage show.
Huh.
Which I guess is the point, but it is more engaging when there's something happening in the story.
I gotta say, I have like a real big personal problem with the opening number.
Okay, let's talk about that.
I don't have anything good. It's just really, really personal. I was born in 1990 and I just turned 30. And so I'm listening to this whole number of him talking about 1990 and how he's about to turn 30 and his life is over. And I'm like, yeah. Okay, cool. But that's it. Just literally listening to the whole thing. Just like, yeah, I am aging. The earth is rotating. Time is continuing and won't stop. Yay.
The time you felt seen in a good way, I think.
Yeah, it was like weirdly cosmic where it's like, okay, so this is
what
year
is
I was
30
born.
divided by 90?
Hey Siri, what's 30 divided by 90?
1/3. Right?
0.33333333333.
Yeah, 1/3.
Well, so okay, well, sort of to bring it back into the world of the film, I have these weird problems with it where it's like, yes, there are people in this film that hold him accountable whenever he's being like kind of a turd.
Yeah.
Right? But there are a lot of aspects of this film, even for the 90s, where I'm like, all right, now hold the fuck up. How did you pull that off, right? Or like, he's like, oh, Stephen Sondheim did his first musical by the time he was 27. It's like, yeah, but that was Sondheim. And he had like a literal, like, since he was a sperm, he was studying under people who are like professionals in the industry and stuff like that. And then he's like, oh, I have to have a hit musical by the time I'm 30. I'm like, dude, to even have something read by the time you're 30 is such a huge accomplishment. And then he's talking about how like he's a part of this workshop where Sondheim will just show up and he can play songs for Sondheim. And I'm like, what do you mean you're struggling? This is like, people would kill for this. What are you talking about? You know what I mean?
Jonathan Larson as a human
That's
being.
the vibe. Have you seen Rent?
I have not.
I think seeing Rent paints a lot of this pretty well.
There's a
Okay.
character in Rent who is a struggling photographer, and he gets a job and then just doesn't do it because he doesn't want to sell out.
Quits because he was sick of selling out.
Huh.
He gets a job doing what he wants to be doing, and then he's like, "Nah, this sucks. I'm selling out with doing this." It's like, what?
Okay.
So Jonathan Larson, I believe, won the Richard Rogers grant, which gave him access to Sondheim, at a luncheon, and from there they hit it off and they became friendly coworkers.
That's fucking wild.
He would
Lucky
just
bastard.
send Sondheim stuff over his answering machine and get feedback on it. Because Sondheim, we've all seen the Sondheim letters that have come out. You could just do that, and he would
That's so
listen
fucking
to it.
crazy. That's so insane to me. Just like that, you could just that's crazy.
And he was and Sondheim, to his credit, would always give feedback, or he'd be like, "I'm too busy, but I wish you well." I've seen the recommendation letters that I'm sure Jonathan was like, "Hey, can you write me a letter of recommendation?" And Sondheim wrote 2 sentences. "I highly recommend Jonathan Larson." In the documentaries, I've seen those things, and that is not as big of a stretch as you think.
Now we have to write Weber. Just not the
He's
same.
not writing back, and I don't think that he would help at all.
Just shoot him a
just-
TikTok. He'll stitch it.
He just tells you to
Yeah.
fuck off.
There you go.
Kindly fuck off. No, if you send your song to Weber, he'll just put it into his musical.
There you go.
Oh no.
So, do we want to talk about some cameos?
Sure. You're gonna have to do it because I couldn't even name everybody at all.
Okay, I want to know how many you picked up, Andrew, and I'll ask Ethan how many he picked up that you don't mention.
Oh boy, you're expecting me to know names?
Oh,
I
you should start with
recognize
me.
people.
I'm gonna get fewer than that. Obviously, Bernadette Peters.
Yeah, that's the big one.
Andre DeShields had the funniest one. I almost
Yeah,
peed
that
myself
one.
when he just kept spelling his name.
It's
I'm like,
not
that's
a math test.
it's customer service in a nutshell. That was amazing. All right, I'm gonna leave room for you. Go for it.
That it? That was the
Man.
only 2 you remembered?
Yeah, I'm on the spot.
I don't have any names. My goodness, I recognize people, but
Just throw out some people you recognize.
I don't know their names. I looked at their faces and I was like, yeah, I know that person, but I can't
You don't
name
even
them.
know where you know them from?
No, Sondheim was in it.
Oh, there you go. Sondheim.
Well, that wasn't Sondheim himself. It was Bradley Whitford playing Sondheim. But then Sondheim's voice showed up at the end because he didn't like how
Yeah.
Bradley Whitford's original voicemail. So he stepped in and was like, "Oh, here's what I'd really say.
Yeah,
Now I'm going to go die 4 weeks later."
rip. There's so many people.
Does Vanessa
in the
Hudgens
Sunday
count?
one.
I'd count her. So can we talk about this for a second? So Josh Henry, the gentleman that's also performed with Vanessa Hudgens in the 3-person show, he is playing, literally, they call him by name, Roger Bart. Do you know who Roger Bart is, Ethan?
No.
Have you seen The Producers?
Yeah.
The musical?
Yeah.
Carmen Gia from The Producers. He is also the singing voice of Hercules in the movie Hercules.
No way.
They were
Oh, okay.
and
Yeah.
Andrew, you'll remember him as Doc Brown from the Back to the Future musical most recently.
Yes, that's where I remember him from.
Yeah, that's your favorite show. So that is literally
Oh my god, how did I miss him? I'm gonna have a stroke. How did I miss it? Hold on. I'm going to Google now.
Yeah, so Josh Henry is playing Roger Bart.
So who else is in there, Jess? Who do you
So
got?
we got Laura Benanti, who's one of my favorite human beings on the entire planet, playing the one that's running the little operation where she's like, "America, what do you think about?" That's Laura Benanti. Well, in that, you also have the gentleman that was originally lined up to play Aaron Burr, but had some personal issues and was part of one of the creators of Freestyle Love Supreme, which is Lin-Manuel Miranda's improv hip-hop musical that's currently touring. Also, Little Red from Into the
Yes.
Woods is in there, yes.
Okay, no, that one, yeah.
If you look around, Joel Perez is in the Superbia Workshop. You'll know him from Fun Home. Then we're going to get to Judy Kuhn, who plays Jonathan Larson's mother, who you might know as the voice of Pocahontas. She was also in Fun Home as the mother. Danny Burstein, who you might remember as playing Brent Black in the Moulin Rouge stage musical. He won a Tony for playing Brent Black.
True.
Then, of course, Richard Kind as the gentleman that just disagrees with Sondheim until he decides he wants to agree with Sondheim.
Such a great scene.
Yeah, such a very cathartic.
That's
scene to
funny.
watch.
I was actually just gonna say that as well.
Oh, and if you look in the background of that scene, you will see behind, like in the audience, Dave Malloy, composer of Great Comet, Shayna Taub, composer of 12th Night and the upcoming Devil Wears Prada musical, Janine Tesori, composer of Violet, Fun Home, and all those sorts of things. Jason Robert Brown, everyone's favorite.
Oh, yeah.
He's
Did
definitely
they just
in
call
there.
all these people in for like 5 minutes and then pay them, or did they not get paid even?
I think it was just like, hey, my friends, I'm Lin-Manuel Miranda. Don't you want to come in and be in like a quick scene behind us playing other musical theater composers that were inspired by Jonathan Larson? Because, you know.
There you go.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of composer cameos in that specific scene. Yeah, and then we have Cheetah Rivera for a frame. We have Baby New Earth. So many people. And we're not doing a countdown here. Oh yeah, Brian Stokes Mitchell, Grace McLean, Matthew Sklar, who composed The Prom. So people.
You know what's great is if you miss one, everybody's just going to freak out.
They
about
are.
how
They're like, how did you
Absolutely.
forget this person?
They're my favorite person. Oh my god. We
Are
went to
you
high school
stupid?
together. How dare you?
Mark Shaman, he was in there. Steven
So there was a lot of
Trask.
people.
There's a lot of people, like literally too many to count. Like I'm sure I'm missing so many, but does it help the story to have them there? Not
Yes.
particularly. Like it's nice. It's
It helps
nice.
people want to watch the movie. And sometimes when you're Netflix and you're hemorrhaging money at a record pace, you need people to watch your film.
They were.
Is it a selling point? Is it a selling point to be like, oh, we just have a shit ton of cameos?
It was for this movie because everyone did a fucking video essay about that.
Oh, I just kept seeing constant Twitter pictures with all these circles and faces and
Oh my god, did you see that?
there's this person, there's this person. I was like, that okay.
I will say
Red
I saw
circle.
this movie in theaters and like it was obvious I was in an audience of people this movie was made for. It was pretty remarkable to hear us all gasping at the same moments.
Oh, really?
It
They
was
got that person?
I mean, when you're not expecting it, it is pretty cool. But
They got
once-
Kermit the Frog in the background there?
Hey, that's not nice to call Stephen Sondheim that, Andrew.
Oh, no.
Was there? So you've listed your too close to home moment. Can I tell you mine, Ethan?
Mm-hmm.
And this one has kind
Is
of.
it that this is about you? Is it that you are Jonathan Larson?
I am
Jess,
not
in a lot
Jonathan
of
Larson.
ways?
I feel like I have a pretty good work-life balance in my life, but
You might feel that way, but we all know the truth.
okay. So the moment when he is making up with his girlfriend and then she catches him playing piano on his back trying to turn it into a song.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, you're gonna try to figure out how to turn this into a fucking piece to your musical, aren't you? Yeah, that one hit a little close for me. You're not supposed to tell people that.
Really?
What's crazy is that he actually did turn it into a song, too.
Yeah, he did.
That's the weird part. That's like, that's not how boundaries work, bro.
Yeah, he learned the wrong lesson from that scene.
I don't think he learned any lesson from that scene.
I don't think he learned any lesson in this movie, even though they sure tried to frame it like he did.
What was supposed to be the lesson?
I think he learned to love what he had, sort of.
Well, because in the Y number, right, we're sitting at
Yeah.
the piano. First off, I love that scene because it's like, oh, look, you happen to find a piano outside that's not completely destroyed by the weather and happens to be in tune.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Don't
but,
worry,
like, the
he's
whole-
going to destroy it with the weather, though. He's going to cover off of it.
But no, there's like a whole part where he's like, he keeps talking about how he vows to like do this and do that, and it's like, what is he vowing? Like he's gonna live for both of them? Is that what he's trying to say?
Well,
I think
he
so.
didn't do that.
Well, I mean, he tried to.
Honestly, the guy that Michael was based on is still alive, and Jonathan isn't. So
Wait,
Oh,
really?
yeah.
I was waiting for the reveal of that, like what if that person is still alive or not, and they never did.
Yeah.
How I don't know how to frame this question. How real is the show? Like how much of the show is his real life with real people using their real
How
names?
historically accurate is Tick
There you
Tick
go.
Boom the movie?
Yeah,
Do we?
yeah.
Oh, I have a list here. Are we ready?
Oh Jesus! Did I just open Pandora's box?
There's an entire section on the Wikipedia here about historical inaccuracy.
Oh my god. Okay, see, like I was asking because it's like, did he actually have a fight with his girlfriend, and did he actually put that in his show that did not make it to Off Broadway? Because that's rough.
So, Tick Tick Boom. They start with that quote like, everything here is true except for the parts that Jonathan Larson made up.
Yeah.
That is, I know we all hate that because Fargo ruined it for everyone. But that is a fairly accurate way to say it. Because
But
Susan,
what about the parts Lin-Manuel Miranda made up?
I don't think he made up much. That's the thing.
Okay.
Like, as far as accuracy goes, Lin-Manuel Miranda was holding closer to historical accuracy than Jonathan Larson did in his own writing.
Interesting.
So that's the reason why it's like, it's not entirely historically accurate, but Lin-Manuel Miranda did the aesthetic stuff. Like, he recreated Jonathan Larson's apartment from scratch, and people were like, yeah, that's it. Because Jonathan Larson made a videotape of him recording every inch of his apartment for insurance reasons.
Whoa. That's intense.
Why would you do that?
But every time I'm seeing the apartment on screen, my brain is like, he's going to die on the floor of that apartment alone. Like, that is what's in the back of my head. Like, that is the intrusive thought that crawls in.
That is so brutal, but true.
It's dark.
Yeah.
It's really dark.
So he was like those things. He went to the exact swimming pool that Jonathan Larson had to swim in when he wrote Swimming. So those kind of things. Like Roger, Bart, and all that. The changes he made, and the only changes to Jonathan's lyrics, seems to be referring to The Race of Susan, where Jonathan Larson wrote white skin and wet hair, but he decided to cast Alexandria Shipp, who has brown skin. So those types of changes. So
so the changes are pretty minor
to Jonathan's original work. But let me read the historical accuracy. Are we ready for that?
Sure. Yeah. I'm curious. I really am.
Read the funny ones.
All right. So Stephen Sondheim was actually Larson's mentor for some time prior to the Superbia presentation. The correspondence began when Larson sent Sondheim a letter in college, and Sondheim responded. Sondheim even had invited Larson to observe rehearsals for the original Broadway production of Into the Woods in 1987.
Holy shit, dude. That is insane. So, okay, so wait, no. See no, we gotta like expand on that. Cause it's like, okay, Stephen Sondheim, one of like the greatest musical theater writers who's ever lived, right? We're on the same page there. Okay. You wrote him a letter, he writes you back, you're now friends, and you're in. You're showing up to rehearsals. You can ask him questions. You can have him look over your work.
Mm-hmm. That was fairly common.
Are you saying that this is all just who you know and not what you know?
Well, either way.
Are we trying to say that that's the case? Because that would be shocking.
No, because they bleed into one another, right? Like if you know Stephen Sondheim and you have a really specific problem, you can ask him for help, and then you get to learn stuff that isn't in the textbooks. You get to learn the tricks of the trade, the flick of the wrist kind of stuff, you know.
And if you don't know Stephen Sondheim, you'll never have to write a musical because you'll never get a job doing it.
You become a YouTuber, yeah.
Let me frame it like this. I don't think Stephen Sondheim would have wasted time on someone he didn't think was talented.
True, very true. Okay, so that raises like a shit ton more questions for Superbia. That's the one that didn't make it off Broadway.
Yes.
So he's working under Sondheim's supervision effectively, writing this thing, and it didn't work.
Well, that's not the first time this happened. Like, Sondheim has mentored a lot of people, including Adam Guttell, Jason Robert Brown, and Lin-Manuel Miranda. Like, it's not like Sondheim was very quick to mentor young people that he thought was talented and wanted to learn. Sondheim was not on an island. Like, I know we all hold him up to this god tier, but he didn't do that to himself. Like, if in the most recent book by James Lapine about putting it together, literally he just kind of Sondheim was going to one of his plays and he's like, oh, let's have drinks. And while he went to Sondheim's house, he's like, here, smoke a joint with me. And then someone just knocked on the door, Sondheim leaves. And he comes back and he's like, what was that? He's like, just a fan figured out my address. Send him away.
Oh, my God.
So that was the kind of attitude that Sondheim had.
Right, but like you're saying, he's not gonna invest time on somebody who doesn't think is talented.
Yeah, which I think is the big thing.
I wish I knew him too.
I should have written to him before he died. I thought about it a lot, but I didn't because the one chance to ruin your relationship with Sondheim right there.
There you go.
That's the one shot you had.
So, fun fact, Sondheim really likes Superbia. And we'll go into Superbia a little bit more in the second half.
That makes it so much more intriguing.
He did not like Tick, Tick, Boom. He thought it was a step backward from his other work.
Really?
Yes.
Huh.
And Sondheim was very quick to give harsh criticism, and that's often a good thing from mentors. But we still got more fun facts. So, Matt O'Grady, the inspiration for Michael, was never actually Larson's roommate and was never involved in the performing arts as they were growing up, but he is still alive, and the show was dedicated to him when he originally put it on.
And they were still like childhood friends?
Yeah, they were childhood friends.
Okay.
I think that Jonathan was the first person Matt told was gay. Like, they were very close. If you watch the No Day But Today documentary, Matt is a very big part of that. All right. So there's that. And Matt is still alive, despite the fact that the movie kind of frames it like he wouldn't be.
Yeah, they really frame it like he's got a year left.
But that's how Jonathan felt at the time, because that is one of the few stories that is one-to-one from the monologue, is the story of what is the character's name in the show? Michael.
Michael?
Yeah. So all that. That is like a
it
one-to-one
fits, 'cause
story.
it was a terrifying time, right?
Yes, and he lost a lot of real friends, and they're
Mm-hmm.
name dropped in both Rent and in Tick Tick Boom. Pam, Gordon, Allie, all them. Real human beings. All right, you ready for another big one? This is a big one. So are we ready?
Okay.
Oh no.
The musical theater workshop scenes are based on Larson's presentations of material from Superbia from about 1985 to 1986 at the ASCAP Foundation Musical Theater Workshop in November and December 1985, and at the Dramatist Guild in April 1986. Sondheim was a panelist for the ASCAP workshop alongside Peter Stone, Tony Tanner, Nancy Ford, and Charles Strouse. The panel at the Dramatist Guild performance included Sondheim, Stone, Kander, Martin, Sharon, and Stephen Schwartz, whose cameos as aspiring composers in the scene from the film are based on these panels. According to the 2018 Oral History Boho Days from Jay Collis, who you might remember from our original Tick Tick Boom episode, Sondheim was one of the few panelists across the presentations to consistently praise Superbia. Walter Bloom, who played by Richard Kind in the movie, is a stand-in for the negative feedback that Larson received during this period, which was basically everyone else.
Huh. That's what? Oh my God. Now I gotta know. So wait, because like I remember reading somewhere that they won an ASCAP award, right?
I believe so.
Right. So that would make sense. Okay. So he's going to panels, conferences,
Yeah.
readings where Sondheim's on the is a panelist, is in charge of it.
Yeah.
Sondheim's supervising him doing it, and Sondheim's the only one who likes it.
He's the only one that is positive in his notes, so to say. I'm sure there was other people that did, but Sondheim was the big one because he's Sondheim.
Do you know what it was that Sondheim liked about it, or like what he saw in it?
I think it's just that it was so different. He likes bold steps.
Sure.
But
did
let's
Sondheim
talk
think
more
of
about
Rent?
Superbia.
Wasn't Superbia like 1984?
80. Superbia was supposed to be 1984, but then the Orwell estate would not give Jonathan the rights, so he did something original.
Right. And it's like MTV sort of like
Yes.
predicting TikTok kind of stuff.
Exactly that.
Mm-hmm.
So as we stated earlier, Sondheim did come to the presentation of Superbia. He did leave after Act 1, though.
That's so brutal, dude.
He loved it so much.
So there was some difficulty with the energy of the cast and all that. It was not as successful as the movie portrays it. The film also implies that Larson stopped developing Superbia after the failed Playwrights Horizon presentation. He actually continued to work on it for some years afterwards, including a screenplay adaptation in 1990 and a reading at the Public Theater in 1991. He ceased further development in 92 after the New York Theater Workshop staging of Tick Tick Boom, because he was focusing on Rent. So he was literally working on Superbia until he got Rent.
Wait, so he was working on Superbia while he was working on Tick Tick Boom, released
Yeah.
Tick Tick Boom, continued to work on Superbia, and was working on Rent.
Yeah, he basically gave up Superbia when he focused entirely on Rent, because I think Rent was paying the bills.
Huh. Okay, I have a question.
Yes.
So in the movie, a big portion of it is that he's working on this one number and he ends up finishing it like the night before, literally the night before. Is that true? Is that true? Did that happen?
No way that happened.
Okay, because I was watching it and I'm like, if you actually wrote something the night before, you're using like hand manuscript, you hand it to somebody, you expect them to sight sing it at the premiere. I mean, that's why it didn't work. I was like, oh, that's why it didn't get see any success.
I mean, well, Ethan, it is fairly common in most Broadway shows that they'll write a new song and give it to you, and you're expected to know it by the end of the day and
Sure,
perform
but
it.
not like an hour
day.
before you perform it.
It'll be like 4 hours before it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like run it through a couple times.
Yeah. Imagine doing that and still having to memorize the rest of the show and not get mixed up with yesterday's script changes.
Yeah, right.
I'm doing it.
Last one. So Janet Charleston, the inspiration for Susan, did not fully break up with Larson. Rather, the character's actions and motivations over the course of the original monologue's development were based on changes in the pair's on-again, off-again relationship. They were still together at the time of Larson's death.
So her leaving for the dancing job
Yeah, it didn't happen. Not real.
never happened.
I don't even think that was a part of the stage show.
Huh.
They wanted to add drama because that's what makes movies good.
It makes a narrative and makes emotional payoffs and all
It's
that.
like a ticking time bomb.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
lot. There's a lot of things, and I feel like Jonathan Larson kind of got off a little scot-free in the original play.
Oh, because he was just like a huge dick, but he just like
Yeah.
I
So
mean, dick
wrote
is in
it,
like
so-
he was like ignoring his girlfriend,
well,
or does that not happen?
it's different their relationship in the stage show. Remember?
Well, yeah, I'm like if she's not leaving, then she doesn't need an answer to what he wants to do, which
Ye-
means that he wouldn't be blowing her off, right?
Yeah. So she's just kind of an annoying shrew in the sitcom kind of way.
Is it supposed to be played for laughs, or is it just like?
Yeah, like the therapy scene is literally just them as characters singing that song in the stage show.
The codependency song?
Yeah.
I fucking love that number.
Yeah,
It's so good.
it is very good. I like it better when it's commenting on a real scene as opposed to being actual characters performing it.
Mm.
So who cares what we have to say? It's time to compare our opinions to those of the insane people on letterboxd.com. It's time for previews.
It's time for previews. It's time for previews.
Who's going first? I don't
Ethan
wanna-
is. Guess first.
Ethan. Okay. Congrats to Tick Tick Boom for being a James Corden free musical.
No lie detected.
No
Is it a
cameo, I'm
1-star
surprised.
or a 5-star?
5.
That's correct.
Yes.
Ree.
I'm trying to see through the irony.
Okay. Who's next? Jess, you're next. Okay. Now, I don't know how this song goes, so you'll have to sing it after me. This is the life, Bohemia. This gave me a stroke, fuck off. Why is everyone jerking off to this? Please, I need answers. I don't get it. Jesus Christ. I am never fucking watching Rent.
You found my review? Holy shit.
Holy shit.
This is the life of fuck off.
Okay, now I know how that song goes.
That's a 1-star, I think.
Yes, that is a 1-star.
Man, I'm never gonna fucking watch Rent.
See, now I have to watch Rent.
Please tweet your thoughts when you watch Rent.
All right, Andrew.
Okay.
And another one.
1 star.
That's a 5-star.
Oh.
Okay. All right, Ethan, ready?
Yep.
This movie is why it's our moral responsibility to bully theater kids. It's also a testament to the worst pockets of American culture. This movie jerks off to jerking off to the lifestyle of a starving artist. There are 2 layers of masturbation here. The character is such a reprehensible, insufferable dickhead that you find yourself hoping he fails, just so he can finally pull his head out of his ass and get in touch with reality. But he doesn't. He makes it, or whatever, and he gets to keep on bathing in a cocoon constructed of his own ejaculate.
Do they know what happens to Jonathan Larson?
Oh my
It
god, I
doesn't.
was expecting prose. Okay.
Do they read what happened to him? He makes it.
1 star?
Oh, I'm still going.
Oh
One
shit,
second.
sorry.
Do other countries glorify their entertainment industry as richly as we do? I would like to know. John, I spelled his name wrong, by the way, chanting bums, bums, bums as if he himself contributes to anything to society is one of the best parts of this. Believe it or not, though, I really enjoyed watching this.
I was waiting for it. I knew it was gonna swing back around.
Shit. Okay. 5.
That is a 1,
Oh,
but I could understand why you might think it's a 5.
No, yeah.
That-
Okay.
Okay.
That was a ride.
That was
What
a
the
ride.
fuck was that?
That was your review, Andrew.
That was everyone's. That was all the opinions at the same time.
Every thought you could have in this movie.
Okay, Jess. Andrew Garfield is brilliant in this horrible movie. Poor man deserves better movie.
That's
Why
a
would he
1
deserve
star.
a better movie if he's bad?
They said he's brilliant.
Oh.
That sounds like a Spider-Man fan.
Yeah, No Way Home. I'm gonna give that a 1.
That's a 1.
All right, Andrew.
Okay,
Oh boy.
Andrew. Insufferable. A cringe fest. ...
If that's not 1, I'm mad. That's
It's
gotta
a
be
1. Let's see. All right, Ethan.
I think one more time around, and then I think we're done.
Yeah, I think I actually have just enough.
Perfect.
You see how much good Lin-Manuel Miranda can do when he's not in front of the camera? Question mark.
He is, though.
Well, they were wrong.
Was that the review?
Yep.
Oh my God. 1.
That's a 5, strangely enough.
God, I'm so bad at this.
I don't know. Maybe they didn't notice him.
Yeah, he's definitely in front of the camera. He's like, hey, goddamn eggs.
Shut up.
Hey, I'm here. I'm the baker. I'm the cook.
All right, Jess.
Yes, ma'am.
The cut to when they're having sexy time and Andrew aggressively slammed off his suspenders. All caps, by the way.
That's a 5-star review
That's
right
a
there.
1 star.
Ooh. Letterboxd is not as horny as I
the
thought they'd
fuck?
be.
What are they even talking about when they aggressively took off their suspenders?
When it cuts the like, hey, that's a nice dress, and then they're making out, and you have the song "Green Green Dress." He's like rips off his fucking suspenders.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And then it cuts to Michael put on headphones,
Yeah, he's like,
so he doesn't have
God,
to listen to it.
you're fucking so hard.
All right, last one, Andrew.
Okay.
Andrew Garfield killed it. So did Gabrielle from High School Musical. Hated this, though.
Was that her? That is her full name, Gabrielle from High School Musical.
Yep.
Hated this though. I mean, I feel like with that ending, it has to be a 1 star.
It is a 1 star.
We
I love
did
that
it.
you can do that though. You can write a review that's only 2 positive things and then just be like 1 star.
And that's letterbox or letterboxed. Ta-da.
Yes, we did it, guys. Who won?
I got 1 point.
You got 1 point, Ethan, and then Andrew and Jess, you both got 2.
All right,
All right,
They're
Andrew.
I win.
experienced, though.
Victory
Here, I'll
kiss, Andrew. Get over here.
Victory kiss.
Come on, get over here.
I'm pretty far away. I'd have to fly over now.
Okay. How about we go into a mid-show and then we talk about some of these songs?
I suppose we should.
Hey guys, sorry to interrupt you in the middle of the show, but we've got a shill at you. Today's show is brought to you by the extremely kind donations by our donors over at Patreon. Andrew, tell us a little bit about Patreon.
Oh man, Patreon's where you can go if you want to help support us and also get some extra content and things in the process. We have the Patreon podcast. We have commentaries that we release. If you donate enough, you can request episodes. I mean, we got all sorts of stuff.
Yeah,
So.
heck yeah. And you can even see our beautiful faces with weekly video episodes. So you can see how Andrew is slowly sunk lower and lower in his chair over the course of this recording.
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling nice. It's also really fucking hot in here is the problem.
Yeah. I look at my face. I am a very sweaty man right now. I am not doing good, to quote Bo Burnham.
True.
But our current patrons are Melissa Goldman, Leighton Ackles, Danielle Renix, Justice Stampede, Ewan Cassidy, Monica Thoreau, Mina Maneri, Brent Black, Nathaniel Stacey Coombe, Joseph Evans Green, Carrie Ahern, Mary Lou Choquette, Jean Van Als, Russ Walker, Musical Hell, Emily Gracie, Kyle Summers, Jen AC, Scootin' the Technicolor Dreamcoat, Liz Lim, Allison Stellar, Nothing is Certain, except Beth and Taxes, Thesbian, Ren Cullen, Raphael, Martina Salaz, Jessica T, Mitchell Young, Chai Teacup, Katie McDonough, Timothy Keys, Chris Marcotte, Mimu, Kiji Marie Anastasio, Layla, RJ Narija, Charlie B, Patrick Deering, Avery Brinson, Bjorn Hermans, Joanna Oakley, Erica S, Toriana Frazier, Sammy the Most Lopez, Diana Morton, Angela, Kaylee Blazier, Birdman69, lol, Cinemageddon Reviews, Villainous Miss, Sophina Ali, The Omega Geek, Katrin Evans, Paige Pearson, Maddie Wargle, Jonathan Dragoneye, and Elena Resnick. I bet you can tell when the new people came in. They give us a little extra financial support that helps us keep the lights on here at Musicals with Cheese. If you'd like to join them in supporting us and get tons of fun perks, come join them over at Patreon. Also, buy our merch. We have a nice little merch store now, and yeah, we're gonna do some cool stuff over there. All right, guys, let's get back to the show.
They're singing happy birthday. You just want to lay down and cry. Not just another birthday. It's 3090. Why can't you stay 29? Hell, you still feel like you're 22. Turn 30, 1990. Bang, you're dead. What can you do?
So 3090 opening number, very good. 10 out of 10, works as an opening, works as an I Want
You
song.
mean 30 out of 90?
No, I don't. This isn't a fucking Kingdom Hearts game.
That's like a very specific joke.
Oh,
that
that's
I'm
a
certain people
really
are gonna get.
specific joke. Oh, man.
I was doing it literally for Ethan. I knew he would probably get that
There
joke.
you go. Yeah.
But what do you think of this song, Ethan?
It's like I was saying, it's weirdly cosmic. I was born in 1990. I just turned 30. And so it hit me really, really hard in that weird sort of way. As far as, again, as far as the establishing number and opening number, I Want song, it does the job well. Yeah.
How does Andrew Garfield perform it, do you think, Andrew?
I think Andrew Garfield's actually pretty solid all the way through.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone has any disagreements on that.
No.
As far as actors singing goes, he did a pretty good job. Yeah.
Better than his performance in Spider-Man, that's for sure.
Which one?
All of them. He's not a good Spider-Man. I don't care. I don't care what people say. He wasn't even good in No Way Home. Or what was it? Wasn't it No Way Home?
Yeah,
They're
No
all
Way Home. Daylight Come, I don't want to go home.
True.
How often do you think he's actually playing the piano?
Actually playing it?
Yeah.
Honestly, I was curious as to if he ever actually played it.
Yeah.
Like,
It didn't seem like something he was doing very frequently.
No.
Yeah.
Are we wrong?
I
They
think
didn't
his
show
voice
it very
is
often.
great.
They didn't show him playing piano very often.
Yeah.
And whenever they did show him, they made a tactical decision to not show his hands very much.
Yeah, I noticed that too. And I didn't want to be the one guy yucking everyone's yums, but I did notice that on first watch as well.
Yeah. There's one part in the opening number, especially where you could see his forearms not moving. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think he actually played piano.
And that's
Maybe he-
fine.
Yeah.
He may have
Yeah.
known some basic stuff so that he could pretend in certain parts, but I don't think he learned piano for this.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't Whiplash.
Yeah, it's. What do you think about No More, though, Andrew?
No more noxious fumes from gas heaters that are illegal or will blow up while you are sleeping. No more leaky ceiling. No more holes in the floor. No more taking a shower in the kitchen while your roommate's eating breakfast and you're getting water on his cornflakes.
I have some thoughts here.
Well, I want to hear your thoughts first, if I'm honest.
Like, No More is the most Rent-like song in the entire album.
I feel like a lot of it is pretty Rent-like, though. I mean, it's got a very similar music style.
This is the apartment number, right?
Yes, this is the
Yeah,
one
yeah.
where
Yes.
they're jumping between comparisons about that and his apartment.
Mm-hmm.
It does scream a little bit of classism.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the song because I do think it sounds good, and I like the way they distinguish between
Yes.
when they're at the at the new apartment versus when they're talking about. But yeah, there's some classism stuff. I think I noticed one in particular, which I'm pretty sure the original lyrics were referencing a homeless person, and they decided to not do that.
They just made it a roommate.
Yeah, they're talking about having to walk over sleeping people to get out of their building, and it shows them in their apartment walking over a sleeping person in the hallway. And it's hey Lynn, that I don't think that's what they were talking about.
I was confused by that line. Okay.
Yeah, so...
I'm pretty sure they're talking about homeless people sleeping in the street outside of their building.
But what are you talking about? Jonathan Larson loves homeless people. Remember how well he showed them as represented in Rent?
He loves
No, I've never seen it. Sorry.
Andrew's face said it all.
It's that bad. See, now I gotta go watch Rent. The one thing about this number was this was the moment where I was like, dude, Miranda knows how to shoot a movie.
Yes.
Like this is the moment where I was like, okay, he knows how to do a musical number. Like the cut at the end where it's Jonathan Larson and he's in a tux and he's jumping into the elevator and it just smash cuts to him in the subway. I'm like, that's how you fucking do it, you know?
There are moments in this film that do scream to me COVID probably fucked up their original plans. And this is not one of them. However, I do have that feeling when I watch scenes like the Sunday scene, which is the big gangbang of cameos.
It's a lot of isolated shots.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure this was going to be so much bigger, so much more intense. It looks very CGI heavy. I know we are all like, it's COVID. And I am giving points to that. I would have loved to have seen what this would have been like pre-COVID.
Like what the plans were.
Yeah, like
I could see that.
because they wanted Chip Zen from and Joanna Gleason as the cooks, as the baker and their wife from Into the Woods. Like there was so many other things they wanted to do.
Yeah.
That would have been great.
But this scene makes me feel emotional. Like, have you seen Sunday in the Park with George, Ethan?
I've listened to all the numbers. I haven't seen it.
Ooh, this song was a pastiche of Sondheim and a love letter to him.
Is
Yeah.
it a pastiche though, or is it literally just a direct cover?
It isn't a direct cover because the song the notes are different. It is its own pastiche.
Yeah, they sound very similar, but yeah, they're different, I think.
Yeah, they're different.
In the blue silver chromium diner, on the green, purple, yellow, red stools, sit the fools who should eat at home. Instead, they pay on Sunday.
But there is changes to this song because in the Jonathan Larson piece as well as the stage musical, it is it's just kind of like a cute pastiche about a diner, and there's no cameos and there's no like the past commenting on the future and the future commenting on the past, where Jonathan Larson looks at the people that he was inspired by and the people he will inspire. Like that is what this scene becomes in the movie. In the stage show, it's just like, hey, buns. So there is the line.
Sunday brunch sure is busy.
It literally is just that in the stage show. But there is the line where he's like, buns, 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 which he's talking about sticky buns because, diner. In the movie, Lin-Manuel changes those words to bums, 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 and then shows homeless people played by the three leads of Rent.
Okay, that's what I thought. Right.
Which I'm like,
Okay.
See, the thing is, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, Lin-Manuel Miranda is he's classist, like just straight up. He doesn't like poor people.
I think he
Come
is
on.
very careful about what he says all the time.
Because he's worried that he's going to say something like, I hate poor people.
I know he came from a rich family and was able to take advantage of a lot of opportunities from that.
Did he really?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I feel like this isn't the first time that we've watched something from him that is like very openly does not like poor people. What was that? In the Heights, I feel like was also kind of like not
Like, explain what you
very
mean by that.
sympathetic. Remember in the Heights was that plot line where the employee is getting laid off and is upset about it, and the lesson that he's supposed to learn is that he shouldn't be upset about getting laid off from his job.
I do not remember this.
You don't remember that? Like all of the heroic characters in the Heights are capital owners.
Oh yeah, you brought that up. Yeah, now I remember what
And
you
there's
mean.
there's one character who is an employee and they're upset about getting laid off, and their arc is to learn to not be upset about getting laid off.
I mean, that's only in the movie. In the stage show, he was fired because of racism and dating my daughter kind of hijinks.
Yes, that's true. That's true. But the movie's better, so I'm gonna go with that.
See, like this is really interesting because that's like not at all what I got from this number, because they show the whole him like the sugar reference. Now that I know it's an actual number, how he's like constantly writing musical numbers. To me, it was sort of like a disassociation moment where instead of sitting there in the chaos of brunch, he's just thinking about musical theater all the time.
Yeah, no, I agree. That is the correct reading.
Oh,
I agree.
Yes.
Well, I think it's more, not even that. I think that this is an out-of-body, out-of-universe experience where the past of musical theater, where you have the Joel Greys and you have the Cheetah Riveras, the Bebe Neuwirth, are commenting on Jonathan, and then the people that Jonathan would inspire, the Lin-Manuel Mirandas, the Beth Malone from Fun Home, and all of those taking flight from Jonathan Larson, and both of them commenting on him as he comments on Sondheim, who is his big inspiration.
I'm gonna have to listen to it again because that's a great point.
It's also probably just the best scene in the whole thing because it's almost separate from everything else. It's like a music video.
It is like a music video. Yeah. No, I like it.
But speaking of an effective song that comments on a scene, Therapy. This is not how that song was in the stage show, and it is better in the movie.
I fucking love this number. Like, I have no complaints.
This is the one that reminds you of Chicago.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I was afraid that you'd be afraid if I told you that I was afraid of intimacy. If you don't have a problem with my problem, maybe the problem's simply codependency.
Yes, I know that now. You know that I didn't know that you didn't know that when I said no, I meant yes, I know. And then now I know that you knew that I knew you adored me.
Don't they do this like ventriloquist type act in Chicago in one of
Yeah.
the songs, and then they're doing it on here? Yeah, it's very good.
No, the number is so upsettingly good. The counterpoint and everything is amazing.
The counterpoint is what makes it come to life. Because when I listened to the soundtrack of the film before seeing the movie, I'm like, how are they going to make therapy work? How is that going to work in a movie musical? And then I was shocked at how they made it work. And never doubt Lynn as far as narrative goes. He is very good at using song as narrative. And the counterpoint with that is very, very effective. And especially when the song is just written about Jonathan Larson making fun of how people talk when they're in therapy, which different hole to dive into. Speaking of which, there is audio recordings of Ben Stiller singing this because he was good friends with Jonathan Larson in the early days.
What?
So, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Everybody knows each other. Except me.
Jesus.
I don't know anybody.
I will say this is the moment. I think this. Well, I don't know if I'm just sort of preaching to the choir, but Vanessa Hudgens is just fucking amazing. She's so good.
Vanessa
in this
Hudgens,
number,
yeah?
she's really, really fantastic. Yeah. She's so good in this number.
Yeah, Vanessa Hudgens, I think her audition for this movie was her performance in Rent Live on Fox a few years ago. And she was a stand-up performer in there as well.
Yeah, that makes sense.
She took a very loathable character and made her very likable in that. All credit to her.
No, she's great.
Yeah. But still, it's a jungle out here. It's one of the worst deliveries I've ever heard in any film ever.
Well, I mean, High School Musical was a long time ago.
She'll never escape that. Let's just talk about one final number, and that is why the penultimate number, the big, cathartic scene where Jonathan goes into Central Park and just plays a random piano straight out of the monologue, straight out of the stage show. This is perfect. This scene works.
When I was 16, Michael and I got parts in West Side at White Plains High. 3 o'clock, went to rehearse in the gym. Mike played Doc, who did not sing. Fine with him, we sang, got a rocket in your pocket, and the Jets are gonna have their day.
I did have to think about that piano's getting ruined because it's raining, but
Yeah.
other than that, yeah, it's pretty fucking good.
Yeah, it just works. I'm still a little muddy on what the show's moral is, what this song is and what he's supposed to be learning. I get that he's processing the news about his friend, but I'm still trying to wonder what the number's trying to accomplish.
I almost feel like the whole show is it's one of those shows where nobody learns anything, and it's just what real life is like, where nobody learns anything.
Is it
But
the
this is the
Simpsons moral where it's there's no moral, it's just a bunch of stuff that happened. Good night, Lisa.
Right, but this number's supposed to be a big turning point in his life, and he's he keeps talking about making a vow, and I try to
I think the problem
dissect
is you can't have a real moral for this because everybody knows that he's going to die in a year after these events.
That's a good point.
It's I don't even fully know what you do.
So here's the summation. I think he says it in the third, the latter half of the song where he's with only so much time to spend, don't want to waste the time I'm given. Have it all, play the game some recommend. I'm afraid it just may be time to give in. And then he goes back and say, no, I just kind of want to go on with my life and I want to spend my life this way. I like the way I spend my life. So
I will say this, the whole movie is framed as if it knows that Jonathan Larson dies very young.
Yes.
Yes, because it does, and the audience does, and anyone who really gives a crap about Tick Tick Boom is also a fan of Rent, and they know everything about Jonathan Larson, because if you're a fan of Rent, that is why you are a fan of Rent. So
damn, you fucking
I'm just saying, I'm just spitting here. Nobody is a fan of Rent and doesn't know that Jonathan Larson died young.
I'd say there's a couple.
You know that before you watch Rent, literally, you're hey, let's watch Rent. It's from that guy that died really young.
Yeah, but a lot of people know the wrong information. So many people thought he died of AIDS. Let's Let's just say
Yes,
that.
because they're mixing up what happens in Rent with the real world.
Yeah. So people they know at least 4% of the true information about Jonathan Larson. I am grateful that this movie can at least clear up and make him a character and a human being as opposed to just a figure.
I'm hoping that we can get Superbia made.
Well,
Let's make it happen.
Now I want to see Superbia.
Let's make it happen.
That was actually the last thing I wanted to talk about before we ended the show. Let's talk about the Superbia quintet, so to say.
Nomination for a Face Award.
Face Award.
Let's plug in.
Does this mean that I'll be on the air?
You already were last night. What a sight you were.
I was.
You were. You played with my laser. You thought it was a razor. I'm positive that's what caused such a scene.
We can get on the air. My music box on the air. Where? Who? What does this mean?
That is secretly the best song in the entire show. Secretly the best song in the entire movie is a song from a different musical that I'd rather be watching.
Superbia looks awful.
What?
In the sense that it sounds like it's about weird like robots that do weird stuff that I don't understand. But I want to see it.
No,
I'm
absolutely.
just saying.
I love the scene where like he finally sits everybody down and he's like, "You got any questions?" And one of them goes, yeah, what is it?" He's like, I don't, is it aliens? It feels like aliens.
Yeah. He's like, nope, not aliens. Nope. All right. So an attempt was made in the mid 2000s to adapt Superbia into an animated film, but the project was canceled during pre-production and never had a finished screenplay. Well, Jonathan had a screenplay, you know. But the big difference, the reason why it's really difficult to adapt Superbia is because there are two versions of it with very different tones. So we got Superbia version 1, which has like, they're just very different shows. So you'd have to figure out which tone you want to go with before you could even like start adapting it. So as Jake Collis has said in many times, a contemporary attempt at finishing Superbia would require combing through all of Larson's revisions and potentially writing new material in order to fix the story. It would have to decide, would they lean into the retro 80s aesthetic or the original, or lean into more contemporary setting, adjusting Jonathan's dated references accordingly. So I just say lean into the 80s.
Yeah, do a Stranger Things musical.
Yeah, hell yeah. Like just, or like even contextualize it. Like this is a musical written by a guy in the 80s about the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Trust Sondheim.
Oh yeah. But the entire like sex step where it's like anything that ever was and ever will be, anyone will be there. Like, and how that grows. Best scene in the entire movie. A song not even from this musical.
We will get Superbia at some point.
And you know what? We'll cover it on the show when it does.
It feels like we got it eventually, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably gonna be sad though, because we'll probably watch it and be like, that wasn't very good.
Oh no, he did another bad one?
No.
Oh, Jonathan. On that note, everyone, what is our overall thoughts on Tick, Tick, Boom and our cheese ratings? Ethan, why don't you go first?
As somebody with basically no familiarity with Jonathan Larson, who has never seen Rent, I thought, judging it as just a movie musical, I thought it was really good. I thought it was well shot. I thought it was well executed. I love the way that the musical numbers are framed. And I think it's a good musical movie, all in all. My cheese rating... I wanted to find something creative, but after all the talk of being broke, it's got to be a Kraft single.
Oh,
because we're all broke once upon a time, and we've all had a good 5 or 6 of them in the middle of the night without ever letting anybody else know. So yeah, you give it a Kraft single.
all right. That's a good one. What about you, Andrew?
Honestly, the movie is pretty good, and if you have Netflix, you should watch it. There is a lot of good songs, and they really streamlined the narrative to into existence. They like added a narrative, actually, not just streamlined. So yeah, I liked it. Probably my favorite Jonathan Larson thing right now. until we get Superbia.
Until we get Superbia.
That's fair.
I'm gonna give it one of those little like cheese dippers that you would get in the 90s. If you know what I'm talking about. Because
90s kids remember.
90s kids remember.
Forever.
Yeah, if you weren't a 90s kid, you did not exist. You do not exist.
Yep.
Wow. Enjoy that, Zoomers. All right, Bree, what do you think of our discussion, your cheese rating?
Your discussion was fantastic. You know, my dad calls me once a week to say, have you watched that movie on Netflix yet? Tick, Tick, Boom? And every week I have to say, no, Dad, I haven't watched it yet, but I will.
I would love your opinion. When you do watch it, maybe you and I should do an episode just us chatting about it.
Yeah. I will get to it at some point in my life, even if it's 10 years from now. So I don't know what to give it for a cheese. I'm thinking cheese curds, because if I had a bowl of cheese curds, I would pick the Vanessa Hudgens cheese curd out and just take her out of all of this, because I don't like Vanessa Hudgens for some reason.
Damn, you're coming with the spicy opinions today.
Where was this spicy fire earlier?
I'm not a
What
big
did Vanessa
fan of,
Hudgens do to you?
Do you want to fight her?
I don't want to fight her. No,
We're gonna get her on the podcast now.
No, she's fine. I haven't seen a ton with her in it. I've really only seen High School Musical. And then
You just don't like High School Musical.
I know. And I
In
know
High School
there
Musical,
is-
she's awful because she's like doing that like smiley thing where she never stops smiling ever. Like
I'm
a
pretty sure she does
jungle
that in
out
every
here.
movie she's in. Listen, there's the one where she plays all three princesses or whatever.
The Princess Switch. Yeah, I get
The
you.
princess switch.
What?
Like,
There is, I mean, in this, one of her scenes though is she does have to unnaturally smile and dance around like a puppet.
Yeah.
And it's like maybe the best she's ever performed.
is it the song like? Da, da, da,
Yeah.
da, da,
Yep,
da,
yep.
da. Yeah, I thought that was
Yeah,
good.
it's the
but-
Super Mario theme.
Listen, I just remember her saying
Da,
like
da,
stupid
da,
shit
da,
around
da, da,
COVID,
da.
and I'll never forget it.
Yeah.
And
You know.
What'd she say?
Oh, did she do stupid
Oh
code
yeah.
stuff?
Do you want me? I can.
she's
I know.
Go ahead.
I know exactly what she said. She's like, I don't understand why we had to cancel Coachella because of COVID. I mean, yeah, it's sad people are gonna die, but people are gonna die anyway. So
I
damn
can't.
it.
I can't get that out of my mind, and
Well, I mean,
I
guys,
didn't know
think
she
about
did
it, though.
that. Damn it. Now I sound like an asshole.
Think about it though. The people who are gonna die are poor.
Oh, no.
see, I was talking to Lin-Manuel Miranda about this, and we decided that poor people aren't real people. So
yeah, I'm sure she's great in other things, but I can't
They won't be able to go to
unsee and hear
Coachella
her.
anyways. What the fuck do we need to cancel it for?
Oh, God. All right, I'm going to have to look this up now.
I'm surprised you didn't see that at the beginning of COVID. I was like a big thing. It was all
was
over
like-
the
I
internet.
was digging the bunker.
yeah,
Oh, smart.
you're digging
Digging
the
the latrine.
the Jim Baker bucket bunker.
Yeah.
Speaking of Andrew
How
Garfield,
many buckets did you get?
you can use this to dig the latrines.
Latrine.
That is the best video on the. If you guys haven't, go see Vic Berger's video, Jim Baker's buckets. That will make your entire week better.
Fantastic video.
That is a 10 out of 10 video.
God, what am I getting myself into?
Ethan, you need to now watch the Jim Baker buckets video. And
he takes the shovel and puts it into the food, and then he takes the food and puts it in like a wheelbarrow or something, and he's like,
Big Burger
"You can-"
presents
and then
Jim Baker's bucket.
he says you could use the shovel to dig the latrine.
Oh, no. What is this?
I like that he takes a full handful of burning hot rice, and you can see the steam on his hand. Cut this out, Bree. This is useless. But holy shit, that is one of the best videos.
44 gallons.
Today is the 5 millionth anniversary of when Adam opened his eyes
God.
in the Garden of Eden.
He's just got a handful of food.
Yeah, you gotta watch this. This is a great video.
I'm hungry. I've been on the show for about 5 hours. What is this? Oh my God. It's this cheese in a bathtub?
Who says you wouldn't
Yeah.
eat that on top of a pizza?
Oh my God. All right, great. Now I got something.
He
new
just
to
sells
fucking-
buckets of food for when the
Doomsday
when the rapture
prepping
comes.
buckets of food.
Oh my God.
You don't want to have the rapture happen and you don't have a bucket of rice with cheese.
Oh no. Oh my God. He's mixing it with the shovel.
You can use this to dig the latrines.
Oh my God. Holy shit.
All right, we should wrap this up.
Oh.
I'm sorry, he just ate the rice. So my cheese rating is smoked cheddar from Garfield Smokehouse because Andrew Garfield is in this movie. And you know what? This is like my third favorite, like one of Garfield's movies. Of course, the first one is Tale of Two Kitties, and the second one is the original. But this is a close number 3.
Tale of Two Kitties is just kind of a little bit too good, honestly.
Honestly, yeah. Tick Tick Boom couldn't compare to that.
It takes a classic story and just improves on it in every way by adding Garfield.
Yeah, I mean, Lin-Manuel Miranda knew that was the only way he could really solve the problems of Tick Tick Boom is to add Garfield to it.
You add Garfield, and then
Andrew Garfield, that is. All right, guys. Ethan, why don't you promote your wonderful content for the world to see?
I make videos on YouTube and I tweet a lot of stupid ideas. You could find me just sideways.
okay. So when is the Dear Evan Hansen video? I need to see it,
Oh God, I don't know that I want to open up that can of worms.
please.
You should do a video
Please.
comparing why Dear Evan Hansen works and why Dear Evan Hansen doesn't work and why In the Heights works.
Oh,
I think that would actually be the most effective video you could ever do to talk about Dear Evan Hansen in a way no one else has.
I didn't think of that. All right, that's gonna be my night.
All right,
Oh, I woke up my cat. Oh, sorry.
Garfield.
Garfield, what are you doing here?
All right. Thank you guys for listening. Please follow us on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher at Musicals with Cheese. You know what? Leave us a review on fucking Apple Podcasts, please. We need more of those. We'll promote you. Literally, if you make a request on Apple Podcast reviews, we are more likely to do it. We literally moved up a request just because it was on an Apple Podcast. So you know what? That's an easier way than paying us $20 a month. Follow us on Twitter at Cheesy Musicals, Patreon Musicals with Cheese, Instagram Musicals with Cheese. We have a YouTube page called Musicals with Cheese. We have a Patreon-only podcast, and we're currently covering Tangled the series over on Patreon called Patreon with Cheese. Email us at musicaltheaterlives@gmail.com to tell us why we're so wrong about Tick Tick Boom, because, you know, it's gonna happen. Our keeper of the cheese is Juliet Antonio. This show is produced by the incredible, the wonderful, one of my best friends in the world, Brianna Jones. Our theme songs were created by Robin Nash of IOU Music UK. Thank you to the Broadway Podcast Network for not kicking us off the platform for insulting thy Lord and Savior, Lin-Manuel Miranda. I know, but he might hate poor people. All right, guys. Anything else we got to say before we wrap this on up?
I've said I'm afraid it's too late for that.
She's on her way right now. It's going to happen anyways. Why are we canceling Coachella? Ethan, got anything to add?
No.
All right, we'll see you next time on Musicals with Cheese. I feel bad that you feel bad about me feeling bad about you feeling bad about what I said about what you said about me not being able to say our feelings. I feel bad.